how would a leader help a team get through the storming phase that in a scenario where they're languishing a bit?
So I think what helps in the storming phase is...
Because a little bit of it's okay. Like we said, storming is, I don't mean to say good, but in some ways it is good. It'll push the team a bit into a little bit of conflict, right?
You cannot be a high-performing team without going through storming.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a reason why that model's been around for half a century.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Because through forming, hopefully you've set up those guidelines, you've set up those guardrails that you can come back to, that help inform what you do during the storming phase. Yeah. Because, and I've asked this question of over 1,000 project managers through different classes and presentations and folks I've worked with, of how many times have you run a project that did not have a problem that threatened the success of the project? And every once in a while, someone will say, yes, I ran a project that didn't have any significant problems. And I asked 3 or 4 questions, and then someone remembers, oh, yeah, there was this one thing that absolutely threatened success. So, fair to say, every project will have a significant problem that knocks it sideways. Yeah. And that will happen at various points. It could happen at various points through the project. It usually happens later on. So you want to help get your team through storming early on. Mm-hmm. So when that big problem happens, you already know how to solve problems. You know how to make decisions. You know that you have the trust, and you know you can hold people accountable. Yeah. So you are that high-performing team. So when things go sideways on you, you're ready. You're equipped, and you're prepared to take that on. It makes me think of the Apollo 13 mission, when Captain Lovell calls down with, Houston, we had a problem moment. And then NASA forms this huge problem-solving process where they get the best and brightest, which is everyone at NASA, best and brightest to figure out how to get these guys back home. If they did not have those healthy team dynamics and understand how to solve the problem and not focus on other little problems, could have turned out a different way.
Yeah, they could have lost those guys. Yeah. And how can healthy conflict lead to increased productivity?
So, conflict, I think we tend to think of conflict as a negative. Whether it's in the sports metaphor of, 2 people entering the ring and entering conflict, or this idea that, you have a certain idea of how to solve for a problem and I have an idea and we're going to conflict about it. It sounds negative. And so maybe there's a better word to use for conflict, but I think it maybe it does describe well this idea that there's emotionality, that if you think something should be blue and I think it should be green, we are going to conflict until we come up with an agreement. If we can somehow, pull our emotions back or acknowledge that there might be emotionality in that decision, but agree that, hey, I respect you, I trust you, you respect and trust me. Let's focus on what's the right color.
Then you have the commitment. Yeah, then you have the commitment, you have the accountability, then you get to the results.
Yeah. And the most innovative ideas, the most innovative products that we use every day out there came from teams that can have conflict. Anything you read about Steve Jobs, right? Anything you know about Bill Gates, even going back to the cars we drive and the teams that design and build those things, whatever that product is, whatever that innovation came from, it came from innovation is 2 separate ideas intersecting. So those 2 ideas aren't going to fit together naturally. Yeah. There's going to be some butting of heads of bringing those 2 things together. And so those processes probably aren't pretty. But if you didn't have them, then you wouldn't have innovation. You would have those 2 ideas sitting out by themselves.
Exactly. Even brainstorming, generally, in ways, there's a lot of conflict in that, right? A lot of ideation that goes on. Design thinking in and of itself, and this whole idea of coming up with these new solutions to solve a problem, you're failing on a lot of those solutions, right?
If you're doing it right.
If you're doing it right.
Yeah, design thinking, the key ingredient of design thinking is iteration.
Yeah.
The key ingredient to agile is iteration. And implied in iteration is you're not going to get it right the first time. embrace it.
Yeah, embrace
Right?
it. Yeah.
The growth comes from discomfort. The best ideas come from, throwing things together and seeing what sticks. The things that are really meaningful tend to be outside of our comfort zone.
Right.
I mean, we know all these things because we read Twitter these days. But to really live them, to be in those teams that, if you don't have conflict, if you don't have trust, if you don't have accountability, you're probably not going to build something that's worthwhile.